I do a weekly show, and let me see what I have for slides here. Okay, this is me. All right. Thanks to our sponsors, Atlassian. If you don't know about Atlassian products, they're pretty humble, they're excellent. They are for the techie. I love their Confluence wiki. If you're a Confluence guy, speak to me. I want to build a product management tool on top of using Confluence. I have the vision, I need the elbow grease. And so thank you Atlassian for the beer. I hear there's Australian beer. Thank you. The AIPMM is the Association of International Product Marketing and Management. They've been around for a while. They're in 65 countries. They are forwarding the profession of product management. It actually is a profession. I think it's also a discipline and an art. And so they have provided the pizza, and they also provide training, certifications, credentials. Subscribe to their email newsletter. I'm now curating content for them and getting them up to speed around startups. They've been pretty focused on people in enterprise and corporations.
So do they have a local chapter that's here?
They don't. It's online. This is almost their local chapter. They're supporting us in pizza, and they're a strategic partner of my weekly broadcast. If you want to do an official chapter, speak to me. The sky's the limit. I mean, it's an exciting time to be in product management because even though product management has been around for a long time, and there's disagreement about where did it really start? Did it start at Sony? Did it start at Toyota? But the fact is that product management as we know it today, it's different than it was when I came out to the Valley more than 15 years ago. And of course it's different in software, but I'm excited about what the AIPMM is doing, and I'm actually writing an introduction to their framework. So they have this framework. Let me skip a few slides. Okay, this is just about this. Every month we're capturing video, and it's being posted on Bright Talks. I post it up on Stirify. If you're tweeting, use pound SFPT, San Francisco Product Talks. Pound SFPT, and tonight I'll go back and I'll capture all the hashtags and I'll put together a transcript so people can read what the comments were. If you don't remember SFPT, use PROD and GMT. That's a standard hashtag for product management. And on Mondays, I use Prod Management Talk. So these slides are already up on SlideShare. You can go back in and get the links. Our agenda is usually, we did it, you came in, we had pizza. When we have less people, we've been sitting down. That's kind of nice. But it's nice to have a lot of people here, too. We do have an unconference format. I'm sorry I didn't point out that the whiteboard is there. Get up at any time and post your questions. And we'll make sure that we'll try and stump our speaker with your questions if they're pricing related. If they're product management related, we can take it offline and discuss it afterwards. So we try and end around 9:15, but we're pretty flexible. So we'll see how it's going. Okay, so this is, I was referring to the AIPMM is actually putting together a body of knowledge. Product management has no body of knowledge, and that's one of the criteria for considering something a profession. There needs to be a foundation in what is the knowledge that is shared amongst people who are the practitioners. This is just a high-level framework. Every product goes through this life cycle. It's really the creative process from conceive to plan to develop. I'd say we spend a lot of time in tech-driven companies. We're always talking about develop. But product is beyond develop. Qualifying, we used to have QA people. I don't know if that even exists anymore in startups. Launch is a huge thing, but again, it's kind of skipped. Deliver is continuing marketing. This could go on for a very long time. And retire. Nobody ever talks about who would ever retire. That means you failed. No. What if you're being really successful but your market has shifted? You might want to retire one of your products, start another product. How do you do that without cannibalizing? So the AIPMM is coming out with this whole body of knowledge about this, and I'm writing kind of an intro just about how to apply this framework. And as a conversation, not as this is the Bible, but as let's all be talking the same language when we're talking about products.
So maybe this is
Yes.
publicly available on slide.
This is public. These slides are available on my slide share, CF Solomon. What else do I have? So, you know, every month I put up the question, and this is how this community is growing. What is product management? How do you define it? What does it mean to be a product manager? I think this kind of captures it. The bottom line is we're providing value. We're providing value to the product, to the process of developing the product, to the company, to the market, to the customers. And if we're not doing that, I don't know what we're doing. And nobody knows we're doing it. We're slated to do this again on September 19th. Actually have a couple of speakers. You can let me know. I think Teresa Torres told me she would speak in September. She just started this blog called Product Talk. She's doing product management coaching. But if there's a particular subject matter you want to cover, let me know. This is what I do weekly. I've done over 50 podcasts. You can listen on iTunes. You can go to blogtalkradio.com/prodmanagementtalk. You can see all the subject matter. Nick was on a couple of weeks ago. We broadcast right from Agile 212. He talked about what was going on there. There's been over 3,000 listens. I'm sure by the end of the month there'll be 10,000 listens to your podcast. So please listen. I also do Startup Product Radio. If you're involved in a startup, you want to get it showcased. I put out a press release in front of each event. So, and I talk to people in startups, whatever phase you're at. There's also Product Camp Radio. Product camps are happening all over the world now, and so I talk to people in the different product communities. What else do I got? This is what's coming up on Monday, how product management can make or break your company, with David Fraden, who's this product management guy down in the Valley. And following that, Prabhakar Gopalan is this strategist at Dell in Austin. So he said, hey, let's talk about building products with the Gestalt mind. And I said, great, whatever that means. Let's do it. I actually know what it means. So I'm working with the AIPMM in refreshing their content and building their content. And I think their curriculum is a really well-kept secret. So they actually have these certifications. I am certified as a product manager and as a product marketing manager. It's a way to forward your profession. It's a way to get into the profession. And it's a way to get the MBA in product management that doesn't yet exist. And this is Mark. So I met Mark, I don't know, how did we meet? Online. You must have been tweeting something or you wrote something. And I connected with him, and he has been on my show. I have learned a lot from Mark about what pricing means. And I used to think that pricing was about the numbers that you charged people. And I have learned, even in the past 24 hours, that's not what it is. So I asked him how he wanted to be introduced. He gave me homework. I had to reread a chapter in his book, so now I have to reference it. Okay, you always have to be thorough. It was about, that's important. Yeah, so I got to tell you that on my weekly broadcast, people were complaining the audio quality wasn't good, and I realized because I walk around when I'm talking. So now I got a new headset. I have to sit down while I'm talking. And I'm actually talking to someone about going into their broadcasting from a studio. Okay, so his chapter 7 is about price segmentation. And I'd say the bottom line is that you should, what I got from it, and you'll correct me, I'm sure I'll be wrong. One thing that I love doing, and I think as product managers, we should be willing to ask questions that other people are afraid to ask. So sometimes that means, depending on who we're talking about, we have to be the smartest person in the room. If we're talking to the execs, or similarly if we're talking to developers, if we're talking to the marketer or customers, we should not be smarter than them. They should be informing us, and we should be listening. And the bottom line is, I'm not afraid to ask stupid questions or be corrected. That's how it's a good way to get feedback. Anyway, so chapter 7, price segmentation. What I took from that is make your pricing accessible to however people want to pay based on what their value system is and based on what their perceived status level is. So if they want to consider your product to be premium, give them premium pricing. If they can't afford that but they still need your product, let them have it at a price that is valuable to them.
Well done.
Thanks. So that's it. Mark is a very impressive guy and humble. Definitely check out his blog, subscribe to his newsletter, and take it away. Thank you, Mark.
Can I have the mic?
Oh, wait. I've got a couple of housekeeping. If you don't know, the bathrooms are way back there. Mark suggested we do this experiment tonight, pay as you wish. Previously, we haven't been charging at all for this, but I really I was delighted that he wanted to give people these books. So the idea is, it was pay as you wish, somewhere pay how you wish, and he even suggested pay when you wish. So after tonight, if you decided you got value, more value than you paid or didn't pay, you are welcome to send more money tomorrow. And we'll make sure, Mark promised he would send you the book also.
Can I have the book now, pay you later if I decide it's valuable?
We'll discuss that, because if that's how you wish, we really have to deliver on that,
We
right?
don't really have to, but we can talk about it.
All right. So welcome, and again, thanks to Atlassian, and I want to ask some people afterwards if you would hang around and help us set the room back, so they'll invite us back again next month.
Cindy,
Yes.
can I have the mic, please?
Oh,
Thank you.
you need this part too.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thanks. SFPT, hashtag. This is mine. Okay.
Got to look good. Can you hear me? No? Now can you hear me?
Yep.
I love pricing. Don't you? No. If you don't love pricing yet, it's because you don't understand the power and the beauty of pricing. Where'd my mouse go? I got it. Finally. So let's start out with asking a question. What is pricing? I tell my family I'm a pricing expert, and they don't really know what that means. I saw my mom last week, and she was introducing me to some friends. She says, "Oh, you got to meet my son Mark. He's really good at The Price is Right." But what is pricing? Pricing, it turns out, is a whole bunch of different things. And as we go through a couple of these, pricing is powerful. It turns out that in major corporations where we can actually measure this, if you have a 1% improvement in price, you can get up to a 10% improvement in profitability for the company. That is huge, absolutely huge. Pricing is grading. This is a fun story. I was an MBA student at one point in time, and one of my professors said, everybody take out a piece of paper and write your name on the top. And now give yourself a grade for the class. And if I agree with it, you can have the grade. Wow. Now think about it though. That's exactly what pricing is. Because you spend a lot of time creating a product and developing it, and it's time to take it to market, and you have to put a price on it, just like I had to put a grade on myself. And just like my professor got to decide if I got that grade or not, your customers get to decide if you get that price or not. So pricing is grading. It's grading how well did you do your product development? How well did you do your marketing? Pricing is grading your product. So pricing is secret. I love this one. So that seems odd, doesn't it, that pricing is secret? Because we can go online and see prices for almost anything. But here's what's funny, is we never want to tell our customers the best price we ever sold it to another customer. We never want to tell our competitors the lowest price we're willing to sell our product. Pricing is secret. The only thing we make public is the high prices, the list prices, but not the aggressive prices. Pricing is dynamic. It changes all the time as the economy changes, technology changes. Everything's changing and pricing is constantly changing. And yet many of us in the world of product management, marketing, we set a price and several years later we may go back and revisit it. Pricing is information. We're going to see several examples of this today, but my favorite or easiest example to know about pricing being information is when you go into the wine shop and you're going to buy a bottle of wine to take to a friend's house. How much are you going to spend? Depends on if you like the friend or not, okay. But that's the whole point, is that you're going to use the price of that bottle of wine to decide how good is it. Because you don't really know. And it's the price that gives you that information. Pricing is emotional. Anybody here subscriber to Netflix? Did you enjoy it when they raised your prices? Yeah. So pricing, I canceled for a while, and then I couldn't stand not having it, so I went back. It was horrible. But pricing is emotional. Pricing is risky. This is one of the big deals. One of the problems with pricing is that if you mess it up, it's expensive. Remember that 1% having a 10% effect on profitability? It works the other way too. And the problem is, are you willing to take that risk? And that's why it's easy to let a price sit for 3 years without changing it, because you don't want to take the risk. Pricing is both qualitative and quantitative. In huge companies and in software companies, when you guys have a lot of customers, it can be very qualitative in nature. We can look at things like what happens and what's our market share and how many customers do we gain or lose when we change pricing. But oftentimes, as we're launching new products or we don't have a massive quantity of customers because we have a high-priced product, it's very qualitative. We're asking our customers questions and learning about the way they think. So pricing is both quantitative and qualitative. We already did dynamic. Pricing is specific. This one's important because as I sat at the table in the back and I talked to several of you, even though many of you are in software. By the way, how many people in here are in software? How many people are in hardware? Oh, we have 4, 5. Look at that. Didn't know that I was going to have so many. How many people are in the wrong place? Okay.
How many people aren't in product management?
Oh, okay. How many people aren't in product management? Oh, look at that.
Well, welcome.
So pricing is specific because as I talk to people in the back of the room, mostly software people, it turns out that every one of them has a different problem, a different way to think about the issues that they deal with. And so it doesn't matter if you are an almost identical company to someone else, your problems around pricing are very different than somebody else's problems around pricing. So pricing is a specific issue. Now here's what we're going to do today. You are going to leave today with 3, let's call them truths about pricing. These are 3 really important things that when you walk out and say, oh, this is what I need to think about when I think about pricing. And after we've done those 3, then I've got a little bit I want to talk about on software, because I expected there to be so many software people here in San Francisco. So let's jump to it. Oh, I'm sorry. You guys already read that. I didn't want you to. 20 things. Pricing is all of these things. But it turns out we could capture what all of pricing is in one simple phrase. Pricing captures value. Turns out that everything else you do in your company, when you develop your products, when you market your products, everything you do, when you do your customer service, you are either creating value or you're destroying value if you're not doing your job very well. But pricing is the one thing that's there to capture all the value that you've created in those other efforts. Oh, I didn't give it to you. There you go. Pricing captures value. I guess I have to turn around and look once in a while. So, this is for you hardware people in the room. What what happens to the price of gas when the price of a barrel of oil goes up? How quickly does the price of gas go up? Instantly. So this is what we call cost plus pricing. Cost goes up, price goes up. Wow. Turns out, yeah, okay, we'll call it that. Cost plus pricing is not the way to price. Let's look at some examples of why that doesn't make sense. So here we've got Microsoft. You can download Microsoft Office to your PC, and you can pay only $279.95. How much did it cost Microsoft to deliver that software to you?
9 cents.
Was it 9? I don't know. I always say 0, but you know, I'm in a room of software people, so I might be wrong. Yeah. Really close to 0. What they're doing is charging what they think their customers are willing to pay. What's the difference in cost to a movie theater if a seat is empty or not empty? There's no difference in cost. The only difference is how much money did they make. They charge $10 because they think that's what we're willing to pay. Here's one of my all-time favorites, drugs. These things cost pennies to make, and they sell for dollars, tens, hundreds of dollars a piece. Again, they're charging based on what they think their customers are willing to pay. We always want to think about pricing in terms of how much our customers are willing to pay. That's the only thing that matters.
What about the cost of the research and development that they invested to create the product?
Oh, what about the cost of the research and development they put in to create the product? I'm going to answer that with a question. Let's pretend that you are EA Sports and you create Madden 2013 coming up, and it costs you $1 million in development costs. And you figure out the absolute best price on the marketplace for that is $60 a piece. Okay? Now pretend that you're EA Sports and it costs you $10 million of development costs. Do you think your price should change on EA Sports? Well, the answer is no. And the reason it shouldn't change is because you should be charging $60, which is the price that was maximizing your profit. The only thing the $1 million or the $10 million has to do with is should you ever get into this business. That's the only decision that drives. Should you be in the business or not? Once you've spent the money, it's a sunk cost, it's done, let's move on. Okay? It's irrelevant to the price we set.
Some of these businesses, like the movie theaters, they're getting driven up by Hollywood is telling them what they need to charge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's many channel dynamics that go on in some of these businesses. So, and it isn't necessarily the movie theater, but somebody's setting a price that says you're willing to pay $10. By the way, I love questions, but I can assure you we're going to be here till midnight. So your key takeaway number 1, charge what your customers are willing to pay. Now your question should be, how do we know what our customers are willing to pay? I actually wasn't asking you, but sorry. But what you should be asking is, how do we know that? And it turns out that we want to know, the way we find that out is we put ourselves in our customer's shoes and say, how are they making these decisions? How are they using price to make the decision that they're about to make? Now, it turns out that almost every single decision that we make, when we go buy something, we really make 2 decisions. We start out with the decision, am I going to buy something in this product category? I call that the will I decision. Will I buy something in this product category? Once you've answered yes to that question, or once your customers have answered yes to that question, then they go on to say, okay, which one am I going to buy? So let's explore will I for just a second. How many of you have been bungee jumping? Quite a few. This is a young audience. This isn't going to work as well as usual, but we'll do it anyway. You go to the California State Fair. There's this huge crane there. Big sign that says bungee jumping, $75. How many people are going to go? Well, we get a few takers. Okay, you go to the California State Fair. There's this huge crane sitting there. There's a big sign that says bungee jumping, $50. How many people are going to go? Really about the same, maybe a couple more, but not many. But here's the point. The price didn't matter. When it comes to people making a will-I decision, price is not what drives them to making the choice. Think about something that you've got in the back of your head, I want to buy one of these someday. It isn't the price that's going to make you buy or not buy. Someday something's going to trigger and you're going to say, yes, I want to do it, and then price becomes important.
I mean, I want to buy a Ferrari. It was a $10,000, right? I mean, it's a will-I decision in terms of can I afford it or not, right?
Well, we have to be realistic.
No, I understand, but not Ferrari. Like, I want to buy BMW 5 Series if it was $5,000 cheaper.
Well, and so if that's the case, that's okay. You're on the cusp that says, I'm out shopping for the car, I'm looking for the good price, and I'm willing to commit once I find that good price. But most people are, when we're talking about the will-I decision, what we're really trying to say is, you've got a set of potential customers out there, and you're thinking to yourself, if I lower my price, I can get them to jump into my product category. And that is not wise thinking. We're going to see what is wise thinking in a second, right?
So at that point, like, I'm going to buy a luxury car.
Right.
That's a will-I. That's the will-I.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you go to that.
Which one am I going to buy? Yes.
Sure. I mean, how many people, by the same show of hands, if it was like, 2 for 50, would like take that in a heartbeat? I mean, what about that question? Don't think price matters.
No, so certainly price matters, because the Ferrari question in the front is, if I get the price of a Ferrari down to $10,000, who wants to buy one? Right? I mean, I'm surprised the whole room doesn't raise their hand. So price can matter, but you're giving away all of your profitability, and you're not going to be able to grow that market that way.
Well, you can say if it's $10,000, it's not a Ferrari anymore.
That's right.
Well, okay, so part of the gist of the Ferrari is the exclusiveness. So, but hang on, and you're going to see where price really is important. Because price, it's so hard to use price to get people to decide to buy something, unless you're going to make really big price changes. And if you make really big price changes, then we give up a lot of money to do that, a lot of profitability. So, by the way, this is a picture of a guy's car. But you know this is a guy's car? A girl would never have this taped to her dash. Now, ask yourself, how low of a price could Alpine ever get to make this guy buy an Alpine stereo? You just wouldn't. Watch this. We hope.
There's a lot of margin in selling a $2 jar of cashews for $8. Premium pricing. The grail we all seek. But to earn it, you must satisfy a need. At just the right moment. Who's going to help you do that? I'm Chief. IBM. Innovation for profit.
So the point is, $8 for a jar of cashews, that was a will-I decision. That was not a which one decision. So he was not very price sensitive in making that decision. That's the key point. So customers making the will-I decision are not very price sensitive. Price is not going to drive their behaviors. However, let's talk about which one for a second. My brother is a Luddite. Luddite means he's afraid of technology. And he bought his very first flat screen TV about 3 years ago. Prior to that, didn't matter Flat screens would go on sale, the prices kept coming down. He wasn't going to buy one. Didn't matter. He wasn't going to buy one. He was in that will I stage. Didn't matter. One day he said, okay, I'm going to go buy a flat screen TV. What do you think he did? He spent the next 6 months studying Best Buy ads, reading the internet, calling his brother, asking opinions on what he should buy, and price really, really mattered. He's trading off attributes of the TVs versus the pricing that he gets. All of a sudden, price is a huge differentiator to what decision he's about to make. What we want to take from this is when our customers are making a which one decision, price is critical to that decision. So price has a powerful impact when our customers choose which one. Now let's think about how this works for just a second. Imagine that you walk into Safeway and there's a can of Del Monte green beans, $1.69. Can of Safeway Select green beans, $1.49. Which one are you going to buy? Who's going to buy Del Monte? Few people. Who's going to buy Safeway Select? A lot more. Okay. So for someone who's going to buy Del Monte, why would you pay 20 cents more for Del Monte? Taste. Trust, brand. Image. Okay. Those of you who are going to pay $1.49 for Safeway Select, why?
It's all canned beans.
It's all canned beans. Okay. So I want you to know what you just did. What you just did was you said $1.69, $1.49, these are 20 cents more, is it worth it? It's all canned beans to me, it's not worth it. Taste, it's worth it. What you did was you said there's a set of attributes and there's a set of differentiating attributes, and is the value of that differentiation worth 20 cents? That's the decision you just made. That's the decision our customers make all the time. You guys will recognize this.
Hello, I'm a Mac.
I'm a PC. Ready to get started? Oh, not quite. Got a lot to do. What's your big plan?
I might make a little movie or maybe create a website, try my built-in camera. I can do it all right out of the box, so what about you?
Well, first I got to download those new drivers, and I got to erase the trial software that came on my hard drive. And I've got a lot of manuals to read.
You know, it sounds like you have a lot of stuff to do before you do any stuff, so I'm just going to get started, so I'm kind of excited. Let me know when you're ready.
Actually, the rest of me's in some other boxes,
So what they were just doing is they were telling you, reminding you of the differentiation between Apple and PC. They're emphasizing that differentiation because they charge more and they want to make sure you understand the value of what you're getting when you buy a Mac. Value is differentiation. Yes?
So there's a differentiation between social value and physical attributes, right? So somebody might make the choice to have an Apple because everybody else has an Apple too, right? And so I think that's why hopefully you can talk to some of that, because some people buy, I played golf with a guy who makes Bentleys. He told me they cost $50,000.
Who makes what?
He makes Bentleys, cars. So they cost $53,000 to make. It's a $250,000 car. You know, so that's completely a social, as far as I'm concerned, that's a social decision. It's nothing to do with pricing. Other than pricing is that person wants to pay a lot of money so we can see that socially.
So you're absolutely right, but let me point out the...
Can you sum up?
Yes, the question was, his friend makes Bentleys for $50,000 and they sell them for $250,000 and he had to pay for his own round of golf. And so he was thinking that the price of a Bentley is really just social. It isn't true differentiation. And I want to answer that with what I'm about to do. And then I'm going to do that, and I'll answer it again if I haven't done a good enough job. Okay? What I would like you to do at this moment, for just a second, is think about a Mac. And think about all the reasons why somebody would want to buy a Mac instead of a PC. So not price, But anything else? I just want you to think to yourself really hard. Start listing them. Right?
User interface. Done. Wants to shove them up.
No, I just want you to think to yourself for a second. I want you to think hard to yourself, because I'm going to quiz you. And I want to know if you found this one.
Hello, I'm Mac. I'm a piece. I'm afraid to ask.
Well, I was sitting on my desk. Someone walked by, carelessly tripped over my power cord, yanked me straight down to the ground. Bang.
Nice. Mac with some of this power cord that connects magnetically, so when it gets pulled, it just comes right off. It's just kind of gone out, like the tiny built-in eyesight
My
camera.
life is flashing before my eyes. I see a sunset that feels beautiful.
Can I get your screensaver?
Okay, how many people thought of that power cord that just goes... Oh, we actually have a couple. I've never had someone say that before. Nice job. Here is the point. It's only differentiation if your customers know about it. Right? It's only differentiation if your customers believe it. Cindy was willing to pay an extra 20 cents because she believed Del Monte tasted better. Zach doesn't believe it. Who's right? Doesn't matter. What matters is we got 20 cents more from Cindy. That's what matters. So value is perceived differentiation. It is your job to first off create value by creating true, real live differentiation. It is your job to find differentiation. So maybe you created something and your customers use it in a different way, and now you found that out. Shout it out, advertise it, tell your customers, tell the other customers about it. And then it's absolutely your job to communicate it. Because if you can't communicate how you're different, you can't charge high prices. So, recall key takeaway number 1, know your value. Charge what your customers are willing to pay. So let's move to key takeaway number 2. It's going to be about segmentation. Take a look at this picture. Who in the picture do you think would pay the most for a video game? Who do you think would pay the most for a haircut?
The guy in the suit.
I was thinking the girl. What would the guy in the suit pay more for? The girl. But for those of you in the back that didn't hear it, she said the girl. Tough crowd. Here's the point. Different people are willing to pay different amounts for things. One of our jobs is to figure out how to charge them different amounts. If we can charge customers what they're truly willing to pay, that does two things for us. It allows us to raise the prices for customers who truly value what we have, and it allows us to lower the prices so that we can win customers who don't value our product as much. In both ways, we make more money because we win customers we wouldn't have won, and we win current customers at higher prices. What a great, great opportunity. The question is it fair? Who cares? This is a great dinner conversation sometime. We don't have time for dinner. So the answer is yes. It is fair. But how do we know that? We know that because you guys see them do this all day long, every day. When you go to the movie theater, the students pay less than I do. When you get on an airplane, how many people paid the same price for a seat on an airplane? We see this all the time, over and over again. And so what I'm going to do here is show you how to charge more to your customers who are willing to pay more. There are 4 basic methods that we're going to use. One is the characteristics of our customers. The next is information about the transaction that's going on. Then specific behaviors, which are kind of fun. I really like that one. And then products. You guys will really like that one. So let's start with characteristics of our customers. Here we have the movie theater. Notice I get to pay $11. Children pay $8. Old people pay $10. All they're doing is saying, in general, we think seniors are willing to pay less. We think children are willing to pay less. And so they create a characteristic of their customers, and when that customer walks in, they say, oh, you can have it for this price. So it's all about the characteristics of our customers. Then we can do things about the characteristics of the transaction. In this case, we can pay $11 to go at night. We can pay $9 to go in the afternoon. Or if we're willing to go in the morning, we can pay $6. And that's information about the transaction. Are you there in the morning? You guys know the San Francisco Giants are doing this nowadays. Information about the transaction, right? They'll change the price based on the weather. I love that. My all-time favorite example of this, though, Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola makes more stupid marketing mistakes than any company I've ever seen. They did something that was absolutely brilliant in 2005. They created a method where they would measure the temperature outside. That's called a thermometer. They would measure the temperature outside and then electronically change the price of a soda in a vending machine based on the temperature outside. Now, can I say that this is absolutely brilliant? Because is it not true that on hot days we'd be willing to pay more for a Coke? And on cold days we wouldn't be willing to pay as much for a Coke? That is absolutely brilliant. And so Coke announces this, and you see in the top of the New York Times, Coca-Cola charges more on hot days. And everybody gets upset because Coke's gouging us. And what's amazing about this is everybody would have loved them had they done one little thing differently. Had they put on the front of the New York Times, Coke lowers prices on cold days. It's all about the discount. Now, this is a really important lesson that we want to learn because it works for not only the transaction information. Notice that we set a high price and then we give discounts for less desirable transactional situations. With the characteristics of the customers, we set a high price and we gave discounts to people who deserved or earned a discounted price. So whenever we're going to do price segmentation, we almost always set a high price and then give discounts to people who have earned them for some reason. Being old, being young, buying in cold weather, whatever it is you have to do to earn the low price, we give discounts for that. And we always phrase it as a discount. Product. We're going to visit product several more times, but I had to point this out while we're here. Notice that they charge $11 for me to get in. But the people who are not price sensitive, they would certainly pay an extra $5 to go see the real 3D. And they might even pay an extra $6 to see it in IMAX or $7 to see it in IMAX 3D. So these are ways to get more out of our current customers by having product features, product enhancements, so that we're giving our customers choices to pay us more. This, by the way, is the one time when we talk about products, it's the one time where we don't use the set a high price and discount rule. It's usually the get an aggressive price and add stuff to it rule. Now, we also had to do behaviors. Behaviors are my favorite because all behaviors are saying is we're going to set a price, and if you are willing to trade some of your life to get a lower price, we'll give you a lower price. That's a coupon. If you're willing to spend time and energy hunting up, clipping a coupon, carrying it around, remembering to redeem it, we will give you a discount. The only people who use coupons are people who are price sensitive. Anybody in here use coupons now that I've just insulted you all? Excellent. Anybody in here not use coupons? Because I want to know who's rich. Let's go back to products for a second. When we talk about products and we talk about differentiation or segmentation, one of the great segmentation rules for products, think about good, better, best. In almost every situation, you should figure out how you can offer a good, better, best product portfolio. Remember when we talked about how if you could charge low prices to people who don't currently buy your product, but you could win them as customers? If you could create a good product, something that's not as good as what you have now, and charge a lower price for it, and make it bad enough that the people who are buying your current product aren't going to switch down, that's a wonderful thing to do because you can win more customers that way. And then if you create another product that's got more features and you charge more for it, all the rich people in here that don't use coupons, they're going to buy the expensive one. And what's really cool about the good, better, best strategy is not only do you get these people who are really price sensitive and the people who don't care about price at all, but now you've told all the people who are uncertain, who don't know what to buy, you just told them what to buy. And what are they going to buy? The one in the middle. Right? So good, better, best is a phenomenal strategy for price segmentation that everybody should try to use. I'm glad to see you writing that one down, Ben. That one's for you. Now, there's one more strategy on good, better, best. It's good, better, best, and phenomenally ridiculous. We were in Chevy's, and I love this good, better, best because you can buy a Cadillac Margarita for $7.75, a top shelf for $8.95, and a Dos Patrones for $9.75. Or you can buy the High Roller Rita for $30. Who's going to buy the High Roller Rita? Okay, we got a few. Yes. Yes. So the reason you buy a High Roller Rita is you're trying to impress your girlfriend. You're out on a business date, a business meal, and it's okay. And Chevy's makes a ridiculous amount of money when you buy a High Roller Rita. They love it. Right? And it's okay. You showed off. You bought your Bentley. Right? Absolutely. You bought your. It's okay. But here's what's cool about the High Roller Rita. When you have a $30 High Roller Rita product, it makes that $9.75 Dos Patrones, whatever it was, look cheap. You sell more of the best now. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. So, key takeaway number 2, you want to find ways to charge customers who are willing to pay more. And we talked about 4 different ways we could pull that off. So finally, we're going to talk about product portfolio. Now, we did talk about product portfolio a little bit when we were doing the versioning, the good, better, best, and all of that. So let's do a little bit more on versioning. Versioning is I want to create different versions of a product and sell to different customers. Let's do a little bit more on that. Here on our McDonald's menu, how much does a double cheeseburger cost? $1. How much is a cheeseburger? $1.09. If you were shopping, would you buy the double cheeseburger for $1 or the cheeseburger for $1.09? So the reason that they did this is because some people come in because they saw the sign for the double cheeseburger on the side of the wall and they wanted to come in and buy a double cheeseburger, and that was what they used to attract them in. Some people come in and they always get a cheeseburger. And so they just buy a cheeseburger and they don't bother looking at the whole menu and studying it and saying, is there a better deal somewhere? So they buy the cheeseburger and McDonald's makes a little money. Do you know that it costs McDonald's more than 99 cents to make a double cheeseburger? They lose money every time I eat a double cheeseburger. However, the $1.89 soda that they sell costs them 15 cents to make. This is what we call compliments. When we talk about compliments, what we're saying is, what is it that's going to bring our customers to make a choice for us? And now that we've gotten them to make a choice for us, what else can we sell them so that we can actually make money? Now, I'll save that story for later. Oh, this is me. I put the slide in just because I thought I wanted to show you what I do. I've got this really cool 1-hour consultation, and so, I'm not selling, by the way. And if you wanted to hire me for an hour to just talk about your business and figure out what you ought to do, I'll do it for you. And if you are an individual, I'll do it for $250. If you are a corporate or group, it's $500. How many corporate and groups do you think I've ever sold? 0. But it sure makes the $250 look better, doesn't it? and that's the whole point, is we do this thing called anchoring. I'm never going to sell this, but I don't care, because I sell these. And this looks cheap when people see this. Yes?
So now that we're all aware of that discount, do you negotiate after that?
Ask that question again after I tell a story at the end. Okay?
After you speak?
Yes, you can, actually. Yes, you can. Well, I want to, what slide am I on? Oh, compliments. Let me get through some of the slides, and then we're going to do a quick story, and we'll take a ton of questions, okay? So compliments. Remember, what we're trying to do is price to get people in the door. And so when you go to pick out what movie theater you're going to go to, you don't look at the price. It's pretty irrelevant to you, because all the theaters are charging the same price. But once you go in the door of the movie theater, you're no longer saying, which theater am I going to buy popcorn from? You're just saying, am I going to buy popcorn? This is a will I decision. So theaters, it was Zach's comment earlier, theaters have to set prices in specific ways because they're told to by the studios. They make very little money on each ticket they sell you, but it turns out they make gazillions of dollars on popcorn. And that's because you don't think about that before you make the choice to go into the theater. You think about that after you get there. That's the decision that you make. And that's what we want to do, is we want to get it so that our customers are making decisions about something, and then we can make money on them doing something else. Okay? Oh, I love this one. This was last week. I was in Orlando, Florida, and I took a couple pictures. We're at a little diner called Popey's Diner. The food was good, really inexpensive food. And I looked down at the table, and there are advertisements all over the table. And in fact, if you look, there's even advertising on this cup. And I asked the waitress, so how much does it cost to put an ad here? She goes, well, it ranges from $75 to $200, and they'll leave it up there for 3 years. Now, what I want you to think about for a second is this is a diner. What does a diner sell? Food. So what these guys just did was they said, okay, I get it. I got customers coming in the door. What else can I sell? And they're selling advertising to local suppliers. They're selling attention to their customers. And the reason I love this is because I guarantee it that there are other things that you can sell that you haven't thought about yet. Now, I'm not saying maybe you think this is tacky and that's not the business you want to do, and that's okay. But it's certainly creative and fun. So, Disneyland. I actually wasn't here, but Disneyland. Who can tell me what's outside Disneyland here? Anaheim. Absolutely. Anaheim is outside of Disneyland. Hotels, restaurants. Do you think those hotels and restaurants are making tons and tons of money because Disney is bringing in tourists? Absolutely. Absolutely. So Disney got smart. They said, hey, we're bringing in all these tourists. Shouldn't we be able to capture some of this money? So they built this place called Disney World. Instead of 510 acres, Disney World is 25,000 acres. 28 hotels on Disney World property. This little tiny dot up here is the equivalent of Disneyland. These guys are making tons of money on the food, on the lodging. They said, we have something that's bringing in the people. Let's figure out how else we can make money. My favorite example. Google. You know they're making $1.70 on every single Android device that's sold? That's impressive. Did you know that Apple is making $576 on every iOS device that's sold? That's impressive. Google is Disneyland. Apple is Disney World. You get it? Now, it's not easy. It's not easy to build Disney World. It's not easy to build Apple. But if you can pull it off, you can make tons and tons of money selling things other than what it is that you're using to bring your customers in with. I'm going to come back to that slide in a second because I want to do this for a second. We talked today about 3 key points. Those 3 key points: know your value, segment your market, build a product portfolio. I was in Las Vegas about a year ago, and I was in a taxi cab. And the taxi cab driver said to me, "Do you want to take the back roads or the freeway?" And if you know, it's about the same amount of time to get from the airport to the hotels either way. So I said, you choose, I don't care. So we took the back roads. And we get back, and we're on Koval Street, and the traffic stopped. And I'm sitting in the back seat watching this meter just tick up, 20 cents at a time. And finally I said, "So why are we stopped?" And he goes, "There's road construction up ahead." And I sat there and I thought for a little while, and I said, shouldn't the taxi cab driver know where road construction is? So I finally realized what was going on. I said, "Pull over, I'm getting out," and I grab my luggage and I'm walking. It's a couple miles to get to my hotel. I get up to the next corner and there's this lady there. You know, nice long brown hair, white puffy sweater, tight jeans, and we start chatting. And we're walking down the street, and I told her about my taxi cab ride and what this guy did and how horrible it was. And she told me how her girlfriend had abandoned her up the road a little ways and how she had to walk down to the Strip. And we're partway down the walk, and I said to her, "So what do you do?" She stops and looks at me and says, "Anything you want." Now, I wasn't expecting this, but I swear to God, the next words out of my mouth were, "I'm a pricing expert. Can I ask you some questions?" She said yes. So I said, "So how much do you charge?" She goes, $500. "Do you ever discount?" "No, I don't discount. If somebody needs a lower price, I have someone else I can refer them to." That's pricing lesson number 1. Know your value.
Does she make a commission on it?
Don't know.
Always make money when you make a referral.
So then I asked her, "Do you ever charge more?" She goes, "Oh, yes. Some guy has a really nice suit on, expensive shoes, nice watch. I'll start at $800. Pricing lesson number 2. Segment your market. So we're walking down the Strip, and she takes a phone call. And while she's on the phone, it's obvious that she's talking to a previous customer. And she had offered to get one of her friends, and her friend would go over and provide services. So after she hung up, I said, "So how much is it for you and a friend?" She goes, "Oh, that starts at $2,000. That's pricing lesson number 3. Have a product portfolio. So we get to the hotel. We're just outside the hotel, and I said, "Look, by the way, she was as open and honest as you could imagine about everything. But I was so reluctant to ask this question. I said, "If you don't want to answer, it's okay. But how much did you make last year?" She said, "I worked almost every day, and I made a little over $1 million. Now, you may not approve of her profession, but if you want to make $1 million, you should price like she does. Know your value, segment your market and build a product portfolio. Now my friends always ask me, so how did it end? And I have to tell you. I checked into the hotel, and she said, do you want me to go up to your room with you? And I said, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that. By the way, my wife's in the back here, okay? I said, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that. And I get in the elevator. And as I'm riding up the elevator, I'm thinking, I just spent 45 minutes with this gorgeous, articulate woman that I turned down. It must be true. I love pricing. So I tell that story because it's absolutely true. There are details I didn't include, but it's absolutely a true story, and it's wonderful because she really and truly did all those pricing things. It is amazing, and it's the same things that we ought to be doing all the time.
Did she charge you for her time?
She absolutely did not. And one of my friends said to me, "Why didn't you pay her $100 for the time she gave you?" And I wish I had. Well, except then I'd be out $100.
Was it a will I or how much?
It was a pay-as-you-wish. It was a... Okay. So let me... I put this slide together just for this conversation tonight because of the fact that you guys do software, and free has to be one of the best things anybody can ever do when it comes to pricing. Unfortunately, Jasmine didn't believe in that. So how do you get paid for free? And that's the thing that really matters. And I'm gonna, before I start this out, I've got to tell you a little story, and I'm going to embarrass Cindy for just a second. I'm sorry. So I'm talking to Cindy, and this whole thing went to pay as you wish because I was talking to Cindy about how much she makes and what she does. And you know, she's got a huge following. I don't know if you guys have ever been to any of you guys been to her events before? Some. Okay, not a lot, but some. She's got 10,000 people that listen to her blog talk radio show. I mean, amazing. You know how much money she makes? Oh, I shouldn't tell you. I won't tell you.
You don't know. I didn't tell you what all the...
You're right. I didn't know. I don't know. But the point is that she was putting this whole event on for free. And the question is, can we turn it into something that makes you money? And that's the way we always ought to think, is if we can give something away for free, can we find a way to turn that into making money? And we wanted to turn this event into a way for Cindy to make money, but not so that you feel guilty or anything, right? It's something that we just wanted to give value, and if you appreciated the value, she makes money, and if you don't appreciate it, that's okay. It doesn't matter, right? It's completely irrelevant. And so we called that the pay-as-you-wish. And we have pay-as-you-wish up here on the list. You guys may know that in early 2000, there was a band called Radiohead, and Radiohead did a pay-as-you-wish experiment. And they claimed it as a huge victory, where they sold tons of product. And I think they said they averaged about $625 per album that they put out. And that's really nice. But I have to tell you that their next album, they didn't do that. So, but that's okay. We see pay-as-you-wish all the time in so many ways other than this dramatic Radiohead and the way we're doing it tonight. You see pay-as-you-wish when you subscribe to NPR and you volunteer to give NPR money. That's pay-as-you-wish. You chose to give them money, and that's a wonderful thing. So pay-as-you-wish, whenever you give to charity, you're doing a pay-as-you-wish. That's a wonderful thing. So there are many opportunities. When you tip your waiter, that's a pay-as-you-wish. We see that all the time in life, but we don't think about it often. And so this works well if you really and truly offer value and you really aren't worried about, are people going to pay me for my time? Right? This is, I'm giving value and I'm thrilled if you want to compensate me, and it's okay if you don't. I just don't care. Right? I'd like to eat, but I really don't care. And so that's the way you want to think about a pay-as-you-wish kind of thing. Yes?
So things like premium, providing gratuities to waiters, those are conventions for our society. And so how do you establish that? If you want to establish a new way of getting paid for free, how do you establish something like that would be a new way to do it?
So one of my favorite podcasters, I listen to a podcast from a guy named Dan Carlin, and he does it called Common Sense. And halfway through his podcast show, this is about politics, by the way, guys, so, you know, but halfway through his podcast show, he goes on and he says, thank you to my sponsors. He has audible.com as a sponsor. Is that up here somewhere? Ad-supported sponsors, right? So he has audible.com as a sponsor. And then he also says, we really appreciate your donations. $1 a show is all we ask. And he does this every single show. And over time, you start to feel like, well, it's okay to give him $1 a show, right? It's only once every 3 weeks or something. It's not that much money. He makes money because of his listeners. And so I think it's just one of those things where you just keep doing it over and over again with the attitude that says, it's okay if you don't, right? I'm asking because I'm providing you value, and if you appreciate it, and think about it as in you're building a relationship with your customer. Because that Radiohead had a relationship with their customers. And that's what it takes to make pay-as-you-wish really work. So let's talk a little bit about, you can't hear me? Let's talk a little bit about freemium for a second, because the freemium is such an important concept for all of us here. Freemium is LinkedIn, my all-time favorite social media group. And so, does anybody in here pay for a LinkedIn account? Okay, so we got, let's call it 6. I pay for a LinkedIn account. So 7 of us pay for a LinkedIn account. Who in here has a LinkedIn account? Okay, everybody. I want you to know, you guys should all say thank you to the 7 of us that raised our hand earlier. But in truth, that's what it is LinkedIn created value because they were giving away something free that had value. And they're giving away something free because they want to build this huge network. And in their case, like Facebook, the network really matters. Oftentimes, the network doesn't matter that much, but the same concept applies where as we get more and more people using our software, more and more people following what we do, we'll end up getting more and more people that are willing to pay something for what we do. I use this piece of software called ToodleDo. It's an online to-do list thing. And it's free. But you can pay them $15 a year for a few extra features. This is a freemium. I pay them the extra $15. I don't like the extra features they gave me. I love the software so much, I still pay them the extra $15 and don't use those features. Right? What it is you're building a set of followers, and you've got some people that don't need much of the value you offer. And you have other people that need a lot of the value that you offer. And those are the people you want to find ways to charge them money, to get them to pay. And they might do a pay-as-you-wish, because I'm now doing with ToodleDo pay-as-you-wish, even though they don't know that, because I'm not using their enhanced features. So it could be a pay-as-you-wish kind of thing. It could also be a product feature thing. That's what LinkedIn does, is they give some of us that pay them money the ability to know who looked at us or do better searching, things like that. But you know what they really do? You guys may not know this. HR people spend thousands of dollars with LinkedIn to have access to all of these resumes and find potential hires for their companies. That is so valuable, and LinkedIn makes all their money from HR. It's amazing. It is amazing. So that's a freemium, and when you think about a freemium, most freemiums, if you have a 1% to 2% conversion rate, you're doing well. So when you think about your business model, if you want to think about it in terms of a freemium, you want to think about it in terms of, I'm going to get paid by 1% of my customers, can I be profitable at that? And once again, you have to maintain this attitude that says, I'm thrilled to have the other 99% come along. Right? It just doesn't matter. You're happy to have them because they're building your network. That's what makes you successful as a company. Okay? What else do you want to talk about? Free.
There's a lot of discussion lately about how freemium is failing the startup community. Particularly, their investors are saying freemium is failing the startup community because they're not converting their free users to paying customers. Would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, so the question was, there's a lot of stuff in the news nowadays about how freemium is failing the investors because the freemium companies are not able to convert their eyeballs, which is what we called them in the late 90s, convert their eyeballs into paying customers. So the comment that I would make is the comment that we go back to the very beginning of the talk, and that is we have to create value. And if we're not creating value, people aren't going to pay us. It's that simple. If you find a way to get 1 million people to your website because it's free and it's cute, but it doesn't really create value, as soon as you charge a penny, they're going to stop coming to your website because you didn't really create value. And so you always want to think about how valuable is this to my potential customer? Is someone willing to pay for this? Am I solving a problem that someone's willing to pay to solve? Because cuteness isn't going to win the day.
Well, some of this comes down to the plan, because I've read some of these plans with a 5% conversion rate plus advertising, and the advertising has changed from where they started, and if they would assume the 1%, then you would have had a decent plan. So.
Yeah, so the comment was a lot of it is the plan where they assume 5% conversion rate up front plus advertising dollars on top of that. And if you go into your model saying I'm going to get a 1% conversion rate, it's probably more reasonable, more realistic. Good guys do 2 to 5%, but assume it's 1. Most people are doing 1 or less. So, yeah.
Hasn't freemium and free apps and all the free stuff out there kind of made trained consumers that they don't have to pay even for value, or it's reduced the value of value? You know what I mean?
So let's go back to the beginning again. I love this is a wonderful conversation. So let's go back to the value conversation. And if you have something that solves something that I care about, solves a problem I care about, I'm going to figure out how to solve my problem. If there's an app that does it for free, I'm going to use that if you're charging money. Okay? That's the problem that you're facing right now, is if there's an app that does it for free, how do you charge money? And there's not a solution to that problem because I can get it for free. Why would I pay you money?
Hasn't it even gone so far that even if there isn't an app for free, people are like, paid apps? Like, why would I pay for that? I'm not paying. I'll wait for the free one to come out. People seem to expect software for free these days.
So I don't agree. So, now, part of the reason I don't agree is because I pay for too damn much software. But I can understand as a software developer, you're sitting there saying everybody's asking for software for free or everybody's expecting it for free. And I think what's going on is that there's this huge expansion of customer base. So many more people are in the market buying software nowadays. But most of those people who weren't in the market before are in the market now because it's easy and it's cheap and it's free. And they're not going to pay us money to buy our software. But if we build something that solves a problem that people are willing to pay to have solved, they will pay us for our software. That's the thing we have to keep saying is, what's someone willing to pay? And they're willing to pay based on 2 things. And we didn't talk about this earlier, but I'm going to drive this home real quickly. How much would you pay for air if it wasn't free? An infinite amount of money, right? As much as you have. But the fact that it's free, I don't pay for it. Okay? So it doesn't matter how good your software is. If I can get that for free, I'm not paying for it. What you always want to say is, am I solving a problem that someone's willing to pay to solve? And what else is, what's my competition look like? Are they giving it away or not? So, yes.
So does that relate to the will-I decision in many ways? I mean, and I'm sorry I'm harping on this because it's very relevant to my situation, but in economics, we always read about this price elasticity and the demand curve and the price curve and everything, right? In general, more people consume when prices are cheaper. So how does that relate to the will-I comment that you touched upon? And I just want to understand it properly.
So the question was, does this relate to the will-I concept we talked about before? And we're going to go into economics and elasticity and demand theory and all that kind of stuff real quick. They didn't want to, sorry. But I will answer your question. I will answer your question. Will-I So economics is true. As prices come down, more people buy. So that's going to happen. But in general, elasticities aren't very high. In general, you have to lower prices a lot to get more people into the marketplace. And that's why, if you were to run tests, let's assume that you've got Del Monte and Safeway Select green beans. If Del Monte lowers their price from $1.69 to $1.49, what do you think happens to their sales? Skyrockets, hugely. And that looks like phenomenal elasticity, but it's not. Because it didn't bring anybody else into the marketplace. All it did was steal business from Safeway Select. And so what's Safeway going to do? Lower their price 20 cents to $1.29, and now the market looks like Safeway Select at $1.29, Del Monte at $1.49, everybody makes less money, and we have not that many more people in the marketplace.
This is called the equilibrium price in economics.
Yeah.
Way too much time.
You're thinking supply and demand, and that doesn't really exist. So, cool. Any other questions that you guys want me to address now? Or yes, please.
So, I think maybe some of the people in the room are in enterprise software as a service. So the space we're in, I think, is Atlassian, maybe their main kind of line product. I think the most they charge for this thing is $30,000 a year for like organizations like 2,000 people they want to insert in the cloud. I'm sure they got a behind the firewall solution. I don't work there. I was just curious. There's a lot of people I think like this. Is there any kind of words of wisdom or kind of thinking you've done specifically enterprise kind of products and how to price? Because I think a lot of people are spending a lot of time thinking about this.
So it always comes back to value. Always comes back to value. And there are tons of companies out there that are trying to compete with SAP and Oracle. SAP and Oracle charge an implementation for SAP at a large company is $20 million. Right? It's ridiculously expensive. And so if you can have a $20,000 or $50,000 solution for that problem, doesn't that look great? But no Fortune 500 company is going to ever pay you to run their business on a $50,000 enterprise software solution. So in the end, we always have to come back to that question of value and who's going to pay for it and what are they going to get. So if I were in that space, what I would be doing is creating an SAP Oracle type product and not targeting it at the Fortune 500, but targeting it at startup companies or mid-tier companies, people who may be trying to get off of QuickBooks and into the next generation of product. And they're not going to be paying $20 million, right? They're going to be paying $50,000 or something like that. But in the end, we always have to say, are we offering enough value and more value than what it is that they're able to do today? I mean, in a way, when we talk about pricing, what we're really talking about is sales training, right? How do you go sell the value of your products? Yes?
So my question is, how do you quantify this value, right? I think there are two easy ways that perhaps you would say that we should avoid. One is looking at, okay, what is our operating cost, is adding some margin to it, right? And that's the price, or what competitors are charging, and just benchmark with respect to that. Maybe those things maybe set, the floor and the ceiling, maybe they help us set those kind of range. But how do you quantify what is the value of your product?
Okay.
Is it just hidden trial?
So the question was, how do you quantify the value of your product? And there isn't a single answer to that question, but I'll answer it in a couple different ways. First, what I do at the company I work for, and I did at my previous company, et cetera, is we go out and we find out how much do our competitors charge for essentially the same thing, something that's very similar. And then we say, what's different about our product versus their product? And how much do we think that's worth to our customers? And that's how we get to our price. So we look at the Safeway Select beans, and then we say our beans, Del Monte, taste better, and we have a better brand name, and we should be able to get 20 cents more for that. So if Safeway is going to charge $1.49, we're going to charge $1.69. Right? So that's one way to do value. There's other ways that you can do value, which are things like conjoint analysis, so it's statistically based, and you have people come in and they're making choices between different alternatives of sets. People can do value using scanner panel data. So if you go out and buy a bunch of stuff using your Safeway card, they'll randomize it, so they'll anonymize it so nobody knows it was you, but they know how many pets you have and how many sinks are in your house and all the stuff that you filled out when you got that card. And then they can turn around and say, oh, someone just like you typically pays $1.79 for Del Monte. How many people do we have like that in our shopping in our store? So there are many different ways you can do it that are statistically based, but I would try to always come back to that one that I mentioned first, which is, what's my competitor charging, and what value do I offer above and beyond my competitor, and I want to capture that premium.
Sorry.
Oh, Nick, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just to follow on from that. When do you bring customers into that conversation? Do you ever play innovation games or to actually bring customers in and identify what they think is most valuable in terms of feature or what they think is valuable in terms of differentiation?
Yes.
Nobody in the back can hear you.
So the question was, when do we bring customers into this conversation? And the answer is it's completely up to you as to how you want to do it. The tool that I mentioned that's called conjoint analysis is about bringing in your customers and putting together choice sets for them to say, if I had a product that looked like this at this price, and I had a product that looked like this at this price, which one would you choose? And so they do enough of those choices, and you can turn around and say, oh, when it's painted red, they're willing to pay another 37 cents. And you can calculate all that statistically. And in fact, you do that with enough customers, and you can turn around and say, oh, people or women like it when it's painted red, guys like it when it's painted blue. I mean, you can really get into detail with that if you want to go that far. Okay? Yes?
How about other, for enterprise again, how about the other factors like seat, number of users, number of CPUs? Think about those are often factors, and they're kind of wishy-washy, but there's something. How should we think about that?
Okay, so the question is for enterprise again. How do we think about things like number of seats or number of users or number of licenses? And I got to say that I don't know the answer to that question. Here's what I know, is that when you are pricing your product, you want to sit there and say to yourself, what am I going to price? It doesn't have to be the thing you think it is. So if we go back to Popey's for a second, Popey's is certainly pricing all the stuff that's in the store, all the food that we bought, but they're also pricing advertising space. It doesn't have to be what you think it is. So DVD rentals, Netflix turned that upside down. They turned it from a per rental price to a per monthly subscription. Right? And so I can't give you the answer because it's way too big for me to know the answer to that question. But what I can suggest is that you think really hard about all the different alternatives of what you possibly can price, and don't just take the obvious. But also, one more thing I want to mention on that, it begs the question of, do you want simple pricing or complex pricing? You want simple pricing if you don't have a lot of competition. If you have a lot of value above and beyond what your competition has, you want simple pricing. If you're in a heated commodity battle type marketplace, you want to make your pricing look as complex as you possibly can, because you want your customers not to be able to shop and compare on price. And trust me, your competitors are trying to do the exact same thing. Think about your cell phone. Right? Those things are so dang confusing when you look at the cell phone minutes you pay and how I have no idea if I have a good plan or not. So, yes?
I mean, related to that, you're talking about pricing and looking at what your competitors are making. So if you're delivering a brand new product to the market, something that's completely unique, or a brand new service that's completely unique, people can't compare that to anything else. So how do you determine value, or how do you sample the marketplace, or do the right amount of market research to determine the right value to price that?
Yep. Okay, so the question is, when we announce a new product and it's something that's brand new in the marketplace, nobody has anything like it, how do we decide how much to charge for it? And there is not an easy answer. I'm sorry, there's one easy answer and then there's one not so easy answer. Here's the easy answer. If you are selling to companies, you are either making them more money or you are saving them money. And your price can be up to 10% of whatever that is. Okay, they'll pay, in general, 10% to make, they'll pay $1 to make $10. Okay, so that's a reasonable thing to say to yourself. I can charge 10% of what I can prove to them that I can save or make for them. Now, if you've got a brand new thing that's in a consumer marketplace, I have no idea. This is one of those things where you're out surveying customers and finding out what they think, and you know, a great example of that is the iPhone. When the iPhone first came out at $699, so they missed the mark. They didn't sell what they thought they were going to sell at that price, and they dropped it $200 within a month. So that one's really hard. Yeah.
Can you think of any examples in the software industry, like the Johnny Walker Blue, where there's some super high price product not intended to actually sell, and everything else? I mean, Apple doesn't really do that. They try to sell their premium product all the time.
I can't off the top of my head. No, I can't off the top of my head. I could think about it, and if I come up with one, I could email you. But that's a tough question.
Yeah, it's unique.
Yeah.
But they definitely do that, where Johnny Walker Blue is the premium. Maybe you can't afford it, but green is
right. Oh,
less
absolutely.
than half the price. So yeah, take that. Why not?
Absolutely, and so that's really the anchoring piece, right? We're getting people to say, hey, it's okay to pay $100 for a bottle of scotch. Wouldn't you like to pay 50? Yes?
So I think what people also are confused about in this whole conversation from a software perspective is that a lot of people in the rush just to gain market share, and that's supported by VC money. So how they get there from a pricing perspective can be anything, because they don't care if they're making money a lot of times. So if you're trying to compete against somebody who doesn't care if they're making money, you can't hard to compete against. You might have better value. So if somebody's going to give it away for free to get market share, be it Google to sell Android phones and to basically try to squash Apple. That's the game they're playing. They're playing two different games. They're all going to the same market, right? So I'm just saying, I think that's what confuses a lot of this conversation. If you're in the software business, you're really having a hard time trying to set the price. If you're competing against people that aren't priced, even thinking about price, because they're supported by the business model.
Okay, so what Steve just said is that it's challenging if we're going to write a software application and we're competing against a company who's VC funded and only cares about market share and doesn't care about making money yet.
No shit.
So the answer is yes, it's challenging. In the end, customers make choices. And we always have to put ourselves in our customers' shoes and say, what choice are they going to make? And if our VC-funded competitor is giving it away for free and we're trying to charge $1, they're going to go with our VC-funded competitor every time. So I think the answer is try not to compete against those guys. Right? Try to compete against in a field that's not facing that.
If you just look at the analogous situation with brick and mortars online sales. They're online sales, these guys, like Amazon's, cannibalizing their profits, even though they're making a ton of money, to take profits from brick and mortar. They're doing anything they can to do that. They're building warehouses in California now to try to get things delivered overnight. A brick and mortar is a small company in most cases. Can't compete with somebody that's that kind of capital. Unfortunately, they're not on the list 5 at the moment.
So the point of a brick and mortar store, if you owned a brick and mortar store today, here is what you had better be doing. You had better be adding value to every customer that walks in the door. You ought to make it so that customer wants to pay more to you than buy at Amazon and have them ship you a product. And again, you've heard me say this about 100 times today, it always comes back to value. If you can add enough value to your customers, they will give you money. Yes?
So, just curious first, Amazon does make a lot of money and I'm raising money from VCs, and if you think it's that easy, just get some VC money.
Don't say it's easy, I know.
So my question though is, Yammer's got, I think, a pretty brilliant way of kind of approaching pricing and the way they go to market. I was curious if you've seen anybody who you're like particularly impressed by, or wow by the way they price, and just again, what blows your hair back that maybe I haven't seen.
So first, can you tell me about Yammer? I don't know what it is.
Oof.
Does that make me look really stupid up here? I'm a hardware guy.
It's Facebook for corporations, and it was just
Oh, yes, okay.
billion plus.
What do they do for pricing?
So they basically give it away, let it infect an organization, let it go too long, and as soon as you want to start access controlling, or as soon as you get really big, they basically put a call in and say, you don't know how much data you have, we have, you should be scared, pay us a lot of money. That's basically what it does. And it works. It really works. But, I mean, is there anybody like that that you're really impressed by?
You know, I run into things that I think are really cool all the time, but I can't think of it off the top of my head right now. What I can tell you that I'm really ticked at right now is Skype. It's like every time I turn around, they're charging money for something I used to get for free.
Welcome to Microsoft.
And that, and that is not a way to keep me happy. It's not a way to keep customers happy. So.
But you pay for Toodaloo.
Pardon?
But you pay for Toodaloo.
That's my choice. They don't force me to. Microsoft. So in general, raising prices on existing customers is a really, really hard thing to do. You will just ask Chip Reed, right? If you try this, you will make your customers unhappy. So try not to do it. If you're going to raise prices, do it by adding a feature and raising prices on the new feature dramatically. Do it by only raising prices to new customers. There are ways to raise prices, but do your darndest not to raise prices on existing customers. It will not make them happy. Yeah.
There's again this old refrain, I'm not sure if you agree with that, is that you price it high and then give your customer a discount and over time reduce the discount. Do you agree with that at all?
So the comment is price it high, give your customers a big discount, and over time reduce the discount. So it depends on how savvy the customers are. If the customers are savvy, they look at that as a price increase and it makes them unhappy, and so you can't do that. But if they're not savvy, you could probably get away with that. The easiest way, since we're all in startup, or a lot of us are in startup mode, one of the ways that you do want to do this is you release a new product, and you can release it with a relatively high price and say, I've got this one-time discount or this first-year discount, and you've essentially said to them, I'm giving it to you really inexpensively right now, but a year from now it's going to be more.
That's like Comcast. Like, you have to make sure your switching costs are expensive as well.
You have to make sure that they are expensive.
Yeah.
Or
because Comcast, they're going to give you half the price of what it's going to cost in 6 months. Because they know your switching cost is inconvenient at best.
Right, and so what Zach just mentioned was that you have to make sure when you do this type of model, you have to make sure your switching costs are high. And although that is true for people like Comcast, who we all hate anyway, what is even more true is you need to add value so that your customers don't want to leave you. I much prefer to think of it that way than have higher switching costs. So if I create a new piece of software like Toodle-Doo, and I can give it away for free for a year, and people try it, and then after a year I say, okay, it's going to cost you $10. I'd pay it because I tried it and I liked it, and I knew they were going to do that, and that's okay.
The best one I've ever seen was a company called Sugar CRM, and they seem to be able to pull it off. Where it's a customer support,
It's CRM.
Yeah, thank you. CRM.
It's the first open source CRM, and they gave away the first version, and then they came out with sugar on steroids, where for corporate licenses that they charge.
Perfect.
If you were a small company, you got hooked on them, and then as you grow, you were willing to pay for a little bit more. I thought it was a really great
Right.
way they laid it out.
Right.
So I'm hoping it hasn't changed.
In the back.
When you were talking about the free trial time, it seems that people have found that if I don't charge you up front anything, a lot of people register for the free trial, but then actually don't try the product. So the free trial is a pricing model as a way to encourage customers who seem to fail for something. I don't know if you have any correct experience with that.
Yeah, I just went through a free trial of Camtasia and didn't use it. So I have a lot of experience with it. So the question is,
Did they follow up with you?
They did not.
During that 30 days? Or
They did
60
not.
days? And what about 30-day versus 60-day free trial?
so I actually don't know the details, or I couldn't answer that question.
Okay.
But the question was on the free trial, people aren't paying for it and they don't try it. And I think the answer would be, in fact, I'm certain that the answer would be, if you made them pay $10, that they would use it and try it and see that it worked, but you would get a whole lot fewer people signing up for the trial. And so what you would want to do is some kind of test that says, okay, I'm going to charge $10, and do I get more people at the end of that signing up or buying my software than I did before I charged for my trial? Because you've got the two issues, and one is how many people sign up for trial, the next is how many people am I converting to customers? And those two numbers are going to change based on how you treat that.
So have you found in your experience that there are some, how many customers do you need to try and approach to have a statistically significant experience in your results? Is there a rule of thumb that, from experience?
No, so statistics is a really hard thing to deal with in this type of situation. I think what you want to do is look at it from a revenue point of view, and how much revenue can you generate quickly, and does that turn into a real business? Right? So if you can generate really quickly $1,000 a month with a new piece of software, without much effort, that feels like something that you could turn into something that was a real business pretty quickly. And $1,000 isn't a lot of money, right? But it's hard to get your name out. It's hard to build a brand. It's hard, So if you can pull off $1,000 in a month, I'd say that's a good indicator that says you can build a business on what you're doing. Yes.
How can I make the correct pricing for those products with very few buyer and seller? For example, like research report, maybe there are just very few buyers, maybe government or something, and there is no competitors. So you cannot get to compare price of the competitors. So how can you get correct pricing for the research report?
Okay. By the way, do you sell research reports?
No.
Okay. Okay. So the question is, how do you get correct pricing for things that are not bought by very many people, like a research report? And typically these research reports will sell for $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. I mean, big numbers. And how do you figure out what the right price should be? If I were selling that, what I would do is I would go to the type of customer that I want to sell to and find out what they currently buy for research reports. Because what that's setting is, in their mind, they've got some price that they're used to paying for this type of product, this type of information. And then you ought to be able to go in and sell your research report for somewhere in that ballpark. Now, if you can claim to add more value than that report does, you can charge more. If you don't add as much value as that report does, you would end up charging less. But you're using the reference that your customer has in their mind about what they think that product should be worth. And the other thing to mention on these really small deals where you've only got a few people, you're pretty much negotiating every single deal. Right? And so if you want to do pricing well for high ticket items and low volume, you need to become a great negotiator.